Welcome aboard, Chronic Hoosier. Chronic, how's it going, man?
Doing great. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Absolutely love it. Appreciate it. It's getting into spring, and I was talking earlier, May is an incredibly busy month. And I didn't even mention graduation this weekend. It's Derby week. You got the Kentucky Derby this weekend. You've got graduation this weekend. All kinds of the Derby or the 500 at the end of the month. All kinds of stuff. It's a busy month, man.
It is indeed. It is. It's as we were talking during the break. It's probably the start of my favorite time of the year here in Bloomington. Summertime. This town is absolutely idyllic, as I was mentioning. I probably wouldn't still be here without the reprieve that is Bloomington summer, but looking forward to it and all the patios and the lake and everything that opens up basically. And I think you can probably look and understand why certain sports are so popular here because man, this town gets really lame when you have to go indoors. So you might as well have some games to go watch. But it's gorgeous outside. We are on the cusp of IU's graduation, and then those like me with younger kids, we still got 13 more days of community school left. But we are anxiously awaiting the conclusion of all of that and the onset of summer here.
Absolutely. Have you got your Aerosmith tickets yet?
No. I think I'm passing on that one. We're gonna miss that series. We do have taking my kids to Deer Creek for the first time this year. We are going to cross a pretty major bridge in that one. We're going to go take them up to the final Dead and Company show this year up at Deer Creek. So looking forward to that, as well as some other concerts. We're going to go see Billy Strings up there. I think we got some Fish shows on the books as well, but we're going to skip the Aerosmith.
Yeah, I just saw yesterday their grand farewell tour. And they'll be stopping in Indy, but lots of that. Indiana looking to fill their roster yet, but 2 spots open and 2 big names that they are trying to land in Mbako and Dingle, which would go very, very well with what they currently have. Now, whether they get one or both of these guys is a different story, but that would give Mike Woodson potentially the best roster he's had, in my opinion, as a team.
Yeah, I ideally you'd love to see him get everybody that they're targeting. Realistically, I think Woody probably still needs at least one more addition contributor to the roster. I think, as we've seen, you can have multiple NBA players on the team at the same time, but if you don't have that completeness, if you don't have the all the pieces, you can still find yourself coming up short. And I think for a number of reasons, from a competitive level, I think from a momentum standpoint as well. The portal has opened up an entirely new season in the college basketball schedule. That it's one of those where the outcomes don't really have an immediate effect. In as much as a guy signs, he's coming to Bloomington. That's great. You don't see the product for 6 to 8 months, but you got to get the wins. And I think that does matter. I think it matters from a fan perspective. I think it matters for your efforts in the recruiting portal. I think kids want to play with winners. Kids want to join winning teams. That's the reason that they've entered the portal, is they're looking for better opportunities for themselves. And in this day and age, it's a lot easier for them to see themselves in that winning position when they see other winners, jumping on board with the program. So I think it's important on a number of different levels, both practically as well as kind of perception related. Woody needs to get at least one more win, if not a couple here, to wrap things up and put themselves in a position where they can start stacking up some of the dubs that really matter. Because at the end of the day, it's what can these kids do on the floor together, and as we've seen in the past, how far can they go in the tournament? Because you can have some amazing talent, and you don't make it out of the first weekend, and you're left with a bunch of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and all the naysayers, and well, a lot of that's on the peripheral. Cumulatively, it matters. It starts to stack up perceptions have a funny way of becoming reality over time. So you'd love to see him keep the momentum going, keep the growth going. You got to stay on that arc because as we've seen in the past, as we've seen in other sports on campus, momentum can be fleeting. And once it's gone, man, it's really, really tough to get back.
Mackenzie Mbako, one of the guys, mentioned visiting this weekend, as a matter of fact, the 5th and 6th, scheduled at least to visit Indiana this weekend, graduation weekend, a kind of a unique time to visit. But right now, it doesn't really matter. You just have to get them in and get them on campus. And getting them on campus has proven to be extraordinarily important to landing these guys.
Oh, no doubt. And, it's one of those things where, we like to focus on, having been here, folks that have spent any time in Bloomington, just what a wonderful asset the campus itself is. The expression, the people make the place, is extraordinarily true. But not the least of which is they've got to get a feel for the other pieces that are going to be around them. Those guys generally have an open gym. They get some rum together. They get to spend a little time off the court together and kind of feel each other out and help figure out where that fit's going to be. So, the current players, the incoming players, they all have a very, very large role in addition to all the efforts that the staff puts forward to really, dazzle these kids when they get on campus. But I think at the end of the day, that's probably the most important one for them, is just getting a chance to experience how they'd play together with their teammates, what the vibe fit's going to be like, personalities, characters, and whatnot, and figure out where their best move is going forward. So monumentally important because, you can Zoom all you want, you can send all the graphics and all that other stuff, but until you get your feet on the ground and you get a chance to experience it, that's really what's going to go a long way in order to help these kids make their decision. So you got to get them on the ground first.
And I said earlier that someone like Trey Galloway, who is a solid player for Indiana, and I'm not saying anything negative, but if Indiana wants to be elite, in my opinion, you need to have someone like Jordan Dingle, who they're trying to land from Penn, to run next to Xavier Johnson. I think that is what's going to make Indiana a team that can compete in the Big Ten for a Big Ten championship and make a Big Ten or make a run in the NCAA tournament. Otherwise, you're just kind of doing the same thing. You need a dynamic guy, a guy like Dingle. He's 6'3". He can score. He is a guy that Indiana could really use. And Trey would be a great perfect to spell him. But landing someone like this is what I'm talking about, that would really solidify this roster. And whether or not they can get that done or not, that's a different story. But they're not in a bad position, I can tell you that.
No, it would be massive for them. I think most of us will agree this has become a guards game. As much as we focus on all the big men and whatnot, it's guards that make the thing go. And I don't think you can ever have enough of them. I don't think IU's in a terrible position right now, but I think it gives kids like Gabe Cups, for example, a whole lot more space to grow and do it naturally, rather than being thrown into the fire right off the bat. It's a steep learning curve for a lot of these kids coming in, just because you're playing against guys that sometimes they're 6 years older than you, physically more developed, just the experience they've gained. It puts you at a pretty steep disadvantage when you're first coming out. So the ability to have some depth in the backcourt and allow your guys to mature at a normal pace rather than having to be thrown into the fire, as much as the Jalen Hood Shafinos are a great feather in Woody's cap. End of the day, most guards that come through your program, they're going to be there for a couple of years, if not 4. And it's a maturation process. So you certainly want to chase those one and done, those 5 stars when you can get them. But at the end of the day, you've got to build for the future. And a great way to do that is, having a natural order to your roster progression where guys work their way into minutes rather than having to, just assume them right off the bat. not the least of which, you want to be competitive. Rebuilding years aren't fun for anybody, and increasingly they're not accepted. They can often be terminal. You don't necessarily realize it at the time, but you look back. Well, they had that one dip, and then the bottom kind of started to fall out when we look back at it. So you certainly want to avoid that. But you would certainly love to see Dingle come, and at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's necessarily being promised minutes. But if you can increase the competitive balance in that locker room in Cook Hall, you assume that the guy who's best qualified for the job is going to get it. But having more talented players against you in practice makes everybody better. That whole iron sharpens iron thing. So the more good guards you can get, the better, man. There's no doubt about it. And I think it still remains a massive, massive hole for the Hoosiers is who's going to get the points next year. Where's the scoring going to come from?